got some parts for you.
Awesome. I got a whole bunch of parts.
Yeah. Well, I got some spares for you. I know how you like to blow stuff up, so I got you some stuff to just go ahead and blow up. And I got you some brand new 72 versions of the 78s that you had, some new oil feed lines, and then there's a couple of spare cartridges in here just in case you suck in stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, life happens.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, I just never thought about it. Like I've always looked at the fittings and stuff, and I usually like check them out when I put them on, but I never thought to measure the lines.
And a 3-line ends up being pretty significantly smaller ID. And I've even seen people that make -4 lines using 3 hose.
That's what it looks like.
And they just go, you know what? I think it's 4.
Yeah,
it's a 4. You know?
Sweet, and it's got a protective sheathing on it.
Yeah, I went ahead and put the heat sheathing on the outside. That's really nice because that braided stainless steel, if it vibrates against something that's powder coated or whatever, it'll just sandpaper that right off.
Yeah, because right now it goes by something, and
that's Tiffany.
No, I have it like going through some radiator hose and stuff. So I'll probably still do that anyways. But right where it kind of because it rubs I think the mid plate right there. Mm-hmm. Sweet, yeah, this is way nicer. Awesome. So, you have a second to check out the shop?
Yeah. Gonna walk around. Come on, this is just shipping and receiving. So these are just turbos that are going to go out tomorrow. Just a stocking order for a shop here or there, whatever. And then in the morning we'll start processing the internet orders that happened overnight and stuff like that. This is gaskets, silicone couplers, just all the little accessories that go along with the turbo. The turbos get built in the build room, come out to here for fulfillment. The turbos stack up on the table, and the orders come out of the computer. You add all the little lines of gaskets and couplers and everything else that goes along with the order to the order, pack it all up. And what's nice about this is that it gets packed at the same temperature that it gets built at. So that's climate controlled. This is climate controlled.
So there's no condensation or anything?
You don't have any problems with cast iron sweating. And then, the dude opens his box in Minnesota and it's all rusted.
Some of the things you don't think about.
You don't think about it until it starts happening. And then, it's Texas in the summertime. So if you got air conditioning, and then you take your cold 70-degree Fahrenheit iron part and set it in the 90-degree or 105-degree warehouse where it's 70% humidity. It starts pretty quick.
Yeah, we do water restoration, so we know a little bit about condensation.
Yeah, humidity.
A little bit.
Humidity is just a real bad deal.
I've even seen manufacturers having issues when they order parts from certain plants if the temperature is different with tolerances.
Oh yeah, definitely can be when it comes to measuring stuff. Yeah, very much so. And so this is warehouse, the spare housings, completed turbochargers get inventoried here. The components for turbochargers they get built here. Probably about 3/4 of the turbochargers that we sell we actually build right here.
Okay.
So some of the lower end Chinese stuff, like what we call the Happy Dragon, the HD stuff, that just comes in on a pallet. It's just the best parts I can find in China. But there's only so many options. You want a $300 turbocharger, there's only so many options to do something like that. And it turns out, sometimes a $300 turbocharger is just what you need.
What is this thing?
This is a 90.
That looks like fun.
It's a 92 Galant DR4 all-wheel drive 4G63, and this car's been used to do what's called One Lap of America. Is the event that this car used to do, which is kind of like a drag and drive, but it's a road course and drive. And I think this idea has been around a long time. You see, this was the 30th one of the One Lap of America. So in this car, probably the last time this car was actually raced in a one-lap event was probably about 10 years ago or so. So you see that they've been doing the road course and drive style events for a long time. And then drag and drive was kind of a new thing that started that everybody won't shut up and start talking about drag and drive.
So is R Young, that's you, and then
that's me, that's my son.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, so we just kind of take this car up to Ohio for the annual DSM shootout in Norwalk, Ohio.
What kind of race is it? Like road, or is it?
There's an autocross event at the shootout, at the DSM shootout. There's an autocross component to it if you choose to join them, but mainly that event's just all track.
170 miles an hour at Daytona.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's that was campaigned by Tim and oh gosh, now I'm looking like a dork. But the gosh, it's been so long ago since we worked with these guys that built the car
Yeah.
originally. But it's a fun car.
That's is
The engine for it's in the back. It's getting ready to get all reassembled right now.
oh, got some big turbos. The big
Yeah,
singles.
sometimes they do. Those are actually those are Lamborghinis. Those are off of
Really?
great big Lamborghini, and these were off of GTR. So those are GTX 50, GTX 47 size turbochargers. We do a lot of import stuff. We before we ever started doing any V8 stuff, we were doing all import stuff for quarter mile and half mile, Texas mile, stuff like that.
Okay.
So I mean, back in the day, you see Bello doing wheelies with the air-cooled Porsches. Well, we had some turbos on those Porsches way back then.
Is it harder on like those half mile cars? A lot harder on the turbos?
Oh, it's a thermal.
way,
Now it's a thermal load. Now it's a thermal issue. It's not just you drag them out. You do it. Your 8th mile drag race. Well, it took 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, 4 seconds is first and second gear in a half mile event.
Yeah. So it's really loading on them.
It really is a lot of thermal load. It really is a lot of temperature. You got to make sure you got water jackets on stuff. That's why Tile was so heavy moving into water-cooled wastegates, because they were making wastegates for Le Mans and Indy Lights and other actual pro racing franchises. So water cooling stuff is really important when you're going to race that long.
That's pretty interesting.
Road course.
Yep. Yeah, that and then boats that we think we're hard on stuff. It's like they do
boats
that for like
30
minutes, an hour.
It's a totally different deal, because you go up to 10,000 feet. If you want to go to full power, we could go full power to Los Angeles. You know what I mean? It could take 6 hours. It could go to Tokyo full power. So there's nothing that stops it. It's like a boat. To get out, in the open ocean or something like that with those big cigarette boats, you just go full power and you can just stay there.
Yeah.
So the heat management is totally
has to maintain itself. Yeah.
Where we go, oh yeah, put some tinfoil around that.
Yeah.
That doesn't work on.
No.
Doesn't work on that. Just more component storage for the turbos that get built here. We have a lot of zone rotor turbos and a lot of FP turbochargers, all FP turbochargers, and a lot of zone rotor turbochargers get built right here. These 4 stations, the VSR balancers are in the back. Just small component balancer. You use this to check your component pieces. So when you balance a turbocharger, like to balance a turbine wheel in a left and a right plane, the inboard and the outboard sides of the turbine wheel, and compressor wheel, the inboard and the outboard sides of the compressor wheel. You put the whole rotor group together, and now you balance that again as a left and a right plane. Then you build the turbocharger. Then you put it in the VSR balancer, which actually operates it at near max speed.
Is that like with just the turbines, or is that with the center section too?
The last step that goes in the VSR is
all
assembled.
Okay.
Bearings and everything. Okay.
And that's when you see like the marks the grind marks from balancing and stuff.
Yeah, the component pieces, the wheels will get like little notches cut in them and whatnot here, just to get the basic balance on the components. Then after you build the whole thing, it gets a final validation in the VSR.
Okay.
That brings it up to a 1,600 foot per second tip speed on the compressor, generally speaking, give or take. So, kind of like a faster than 12 gauge slug. Jeez. The tip of that wheel spinning when it's in the balancer. But the reason that you balance at high speed like that, especially on small turbochargers, it's critical, is because when things start getting up past about 50,000 RPM, they'll start to have a little deflection in the shaft.
Okay.
So from about 50,000 RPM up to about 150,000 RPM, it operates kind of in a different mode of balance, because it goes, I want to kind of bend this way. I'm not going to bend that way until you spin me up at least to 50,000 or so.
Oh, wow.
So you get them up to 50, 60,000, they'll get a little bit of cock in them as all the parts rest against each other with the centrifugal load on them. That's the really critical way to balance it in that mode where it's balanced.
Yeah, because does it just go in one direction because of the way that the fins are, or deflect?
No, it's just because there's so many things that stack up on that shaft, and when you draw it down tight, every piece has some tiny little imperfection to it.
Okay.
So when you stack all those pieces up, how did they all stack up? Did they all stack up where it all bent that way, or did they all perfectly adjust for each other the whole time stacked up? Now, obviously, the pieces aren't actually machined like this.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you think about it on a microscopic level or a very
Yeah.
infinitesimal level, nothing is perfectly straight. You know, there's not
Yeah.
a straight telephone pole in the whole world. Okay, none
Yeah.
of them are straight. You know, nothing is straight, nothing's perfect, and that goes for a turbocharger too. But what we do with the turbocharger is we make sure the last step we do is we spin at a very high speed. Like I said, 1,200, 1,600 feet per second tip speed on the compressor will generally do a full speed validation, and then you make sure that it's balanced in that operating mode too.
Okay.
And that basically just keeps anything from ever coming back.
Awesome. Yeah. Unless you don't have the right size oil lines.
Unless you, yeah, well, you do need. You got to float.
I want to think.
Float a journal.
What do you think it's more so the problem? You think it's because if I hit the chute and hit the brakes, I hit oil pressure shut off and my engine shuts off. It's still spinning though because the transmission.
That's a really bad situation right there.
Yeah.
Okay? Because now there's zero oil pressure, and the turbos are just as hot as you were ever going to get them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you
so
just
that
starved
might even
it.
mean that the turbine head is kind of glowing a dull orange at this point. Even if it was just 5 seconds or 6 seconds of power, 7 seconds of power, turbine wheel could be glowing a dull orange at that point. Now, if there's no more oil in the turbo and the turbo stops because the engine stopped, now you got glowing parts that are supposed to be floating in oil and have oil flowing through them. Okay. Well, oil flowing through them can take some heat away, but when the oil doesn't flow anymore, now the heat's not going away. You might as well just have a cast iron skillet, just spit on it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just gonna burn, you know.
And then that can cause it to bend shafts too.
That'll cause it to coke up. That'll cause the clearances to get all jacked up. Then the next time you want to run oil through it, there's coked carbon in the clearances, and it just doesn't lubricate the way it's supposed to.
Well, I guess you'll see what I did.
Well, hey, I'm kind of curious to see. Yeah,
I don't know if it drops to 0, but it drops. I think I have it shutting off at 25.
There's a limited amount of damage that happens from that. Hot
but
shutdown
I guarantee you it's also aerated though.
This is what I wanted to talk about. Is you probably have bigger risk when you're launching the car. That's when you have all your G's. That's when we have all of our turbo loading too, because we're launching the car under boost pressure, so we have thrust load. When you're decelerating, there's no boost pressure, there's no thrust load, so it's just kind of free one.
Yeah.
You know, so that's less of an emergency for lubrication than the first 200 feet.
Okay.
The first 200 feet of it is really critical for lubrication. Well, unfortunately, that's when we are going to maybe suck air.
Yeah.
Too. That's where we're going to get a little aerated oil, and so if you have a reduced volume of fluffy aerated oil go into a turbocharger, that's a bad deal. You know, they talk about the Bermuda Triangle, why so many ships sink there. Well, one of the ideas is there's a lot of methane in the ground out there, and every once in a while the methane just erupts and it kind of fizzes to the surface.
Oh, it'll sink.
Well, if your ship is there when a big, you got a 600-yard methane field that just decides to aerate itself, and your ship is sitting there, your ship is not displacing water anymore, your ship is displacing foam. It doesn't float anymore, and the ship will just sink.
Oh,
you can watch videos of this,
interesting.
On the internet, of experiments at universities and stuff. Well, a thrust bearing on a turbocharger is the same thing. Okay, if that doesn't have that pressurized film of oil holding those two pieces apart, if that goes away for an instant, what's an instant? If it was going 140,000 RPM, how many times around is an instant?
Yeah.
Bunch. Okay. So bunch of RPM at a high speed with pressure being applied to it is what? Friction. My fingers are already getting warm. I just did this that's no pressure and that's no speed, but I can make my fingers warm by doing this. Little bit parts inside the turbocharger, same thing. So if there's not a high pressure oil film holding those parts apart, they touch. When they touch, they get hot. When they get hot, they scorch each other and they transfer metal, and then the bearing doesn't do its job.
Yeah.
Like I said, they play hurt for a while. You could
figure that out.
If you're looking at it, you're like, well, okay, it's just a few thousandths more than it was before. I'll make a couple more passes. You can get by if you're judicious.
Yeah, we were careful, sort of. We just ran it at 30 pounds.
Yeah,
and then, until I had to hit 45.
Yeah, well, if they're coming, you got to mesh.
Yeah. But no, each time I was like, just one more.
I got to show you my baby real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got my Gusto over here.
Oh, this is a daily, huh?
Yeah, this is my street car. We've made a few videos about this. I've run a few 6 and 8 with it. This right now it's an aluminum 6.2 with this.
Shooting some meth in there.
No, that's actually how I measure inlet vacuum.
Oh,
So
oh,
this is
okay, yeah, you're
it's kind of
okay.
an SAE way of doing it, or an ASME kind of way to do it. You have multiple taps around, and you plumb them all together into one tap, and it averages the pressure all the way around. I got sensors out the wazoo, man. Yeah, I'm fully. I'm a
EGT.
rolling turbo test stand here.
Which one's this one? Is this the same ones that we
78,
have?
75. Yeah,
Oh,
same
okay.
turbo. It's on your edges. Just one of them though, and
Yeah.
it's made about 700 something, low sevens. Running at about 15 pounds of boost.
What's this here? This canister for?
That's exhaust back pressure.
Oh yeah, you
So
got
that's
all
just
all
that's
kinds
a
of.
damper chamber. I actually have downpipe pressure also. You see, there's my pressure for the downpipe.
Oh, there it is.
Okay,
Okay.
so this goes over. It goes to my sensor box. This is the inlet pressure for the turbine, the high drive side. So I take pressure at the turbine inlet and the turbine outlet. I take pressure at the compressor inlet and the compressor outlet, so that I can measure what my delta of pressure is here and my delta there. That's expansion ratio, and this is pressure ratio.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What controls this or what logs it? Like a.
This has a Cyvex Racing ECU in it with a 20 channel expander box. So it's kind
I've never even heard of that.
it's like World Rally stuff.
Okay, I figured as much with the other car. That's awesome. I love these connectors. I just started using these.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
That is cool. Yeah, now all the data
All the
is
data, yeah.
just the yeah.
I'm
We're
not
slowly
figured
getting
everything
there.
out, but I can normally figure most of my problems out. But I tell you honestly, they're getting the Cyvex to work with a 4L80 and an LS3 is a challenge.
Is
Because
this an 8? Is that an 80?
uh-huh,
Okay.
uh-huh. And everybody that I know that uses Cyvex uses it all on you know import exotics. So as far as talking to somebody like, hey, how did you set up the tranny switching?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I never did. I never did that with that. So we're having to figure out a lot of stuff that when you have rally cars, they don't run on 4L80s.
Yeah.
So, but it can
And how
control
it.
it. It can control anything. I mean, there's almost nothing the ECU can't do, but you just have to create all of the infrastructure and firmware within the ECU to make it do it.
So this is a bigger.
That's a 125 divided turbine.
Okay.
Yeah, and the 78, 75. When you run in a single, especially if you got like a 6.2,
Oh
you
yeah,
probably
you
want to
need
put a
the.
bigger motor,
So
bigger turbine housing on it instead of
gotcha.
a 96
That
or,
makes sense.
or an 81.
That's
If you're in
very
a
cool.
4.8 or something like that, just go ahead and leave that small housing on there. That 81 or that 96.
Nice. Yeah, you're spot on with the about 0.2 in both areas. So like when I released the brake, it was about 0.2 faster after the release, and as well as building. With nitrous, it's unfair because it's like
some things that are just consistent always.
Yeah.
And when it comes to turbos and sizing, and like a lot of times people go, "How did you know it was going to be that?" And I was like, "Well, it's been that for a long time."
What do you think we're going to deal with from going from the 78s to from the 72s as far as
you're going to have to be careful about coming out too hard.
they're going to spool real
if
fast?
you clip the 81, if you put the smaller turbine housing on it,
it's
go to
on.
the 72s, it's going to have to worry about it being a lot more reactive on the front side of the track. And you're calling for something, it's going to happen a lot quicker.
Okay.
Now the other side of it is like, wow, we're at 38 psi, and this guy's coming on me. I'm gonna hit this button. I want 5 more psi. It might not give it to you.
Okay.
Because when you were running at 40 something psi before, if you were looking at calculated airflow, that's probably about all the airflow.
Okay. Because the only thing I have now, as far as the like how I kind of can see a little bit of what's going on, it still has the intercooler and all that. I'll keep an eye on temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still not to where the temperatures were when I had the S300 style stuff.
Oh,
they would get
wheel.
they would get to about 170, 180 when the 78s would get they're like I think 50 pounds of boost got to 160 or so. Mm-hmm. So like it's still not terrible at all.
Good.
So I guess we're gonna see what the 72s will do.
Right on. Well, there's only one way to find out.
If we run out, we'll just spray more nitrous, I guess.
Yeah. Just make sure you're ready to open the gates. To keep the shaft speed in check.
Okay.
So if you get to where wow, we really want to put 200 horsepower of nitrous, in top gear above 6,000 RPM. Go ahead and open the gate a little bit more at the same time. When you put that nitrous shot on it, go ahead and say, well, let me get this gate open. I'm gonna lower the boost target when I do this, because when you have that nitrous in the air, that is just going to get those turbos so excited. They're just going to go up,
like when you hit it, it's gonna
it
jumps.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because that air didn't have to go through this part, but that air did go through this part.
Yeah.
200 horsepower
Little
more of
zing
air. You just added
instantly.
20 pounds a minute of mass flow rate to it that the compressor side didn't have to deal with, but all your hot parts kit does.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and that's not something I would see unless I had that sensor.
Yeah, and if you're not logging back pressure, then you're not going to know. It went really high, and you're not. If you don't have speed sensor on it, you're not going to know that it just went through a bajillion RPM.
Yeah.
Which is 2 RPM more than I told you could run. So.
Awesome. Mother. Just put that on. Hey.
What happened?
Holy crap.
Oh, okay.
Ouch. I got broken tire, baby.
Police are loading up to follow you, man.
Oh, yeah.
Straight to Indiana. They're coming.
So we changed the tire. Well, I didn't. I watched Steven do it.
Gotta
We realized that I poured the asphalt on mud. So
destroy the
that was just,
parking lot.
That was the thing, dude. Don't ever pour asphalt on mud. Maybe get back on the road.
Thank you, man.
Good to see you, Steven.
Really appreciate
Thanks for
it.
stopping by. Pleasure, buddy.
Man, it was nice to see the building and meet you in person. We talk a lot, so.
Well, thanks.